folks, I'm LA Little and this is your weekly TA Wrap, where we take a look at these markets each time, looking at them from a neoclassical perspective and asking ourselves what happened last week. What does it tell us about the coming one? I do this show once a week, usually every Sunday night, live at 9 o'clock Eastern Time, and of course tonight on Monday doing the same show. We took last night off, markets were closed today, but we do it each week here from the base of the Rocky Mountains. Folks, we had a lot happen last week. In fact, if we pop back over to the S&P chart, you can see that extended run just continued. This thing is pressing. It's pressing higher, and if we pull over on the weekly and look at the weekly and bring up the SPX, what you're going to see is all that loss that we had seen, you know, the 5% down or whatever it was almost 5, I think it was about 5, really got reversed, right? Did leave volume at the bottom, and now we're back up here playing with the top again. You know, each time the market attempts to sell off, right, it seems almost inevitable that they're going to come back and buy it. I mean, we've seen that now. And this goes back 1 year, and we've seen it for a year. I mean, we haven't seen a swing point low, and that's how trend changes, right? We haven't seen one single swing point low broken. There was one down here as well. It's actually above it because it's at the bottom of the chart. And then, of course, this one. This was the first one we actually tested into. But price did not stick. They reversed it, and now, you know, off of that, got the huge reversal all the way back to the top. When you don't have a swing point break, that means the MTTFs are getting more and more stretched, and it's only just a matter of time before it actually does come back and you get a trend transition. If we were going to get it now, it would still be at this price point, and that will be true until it breaks. Now, if this thing can work higher, right, you could get an MTTF reset at a higher price when another swing point low prints. In this particular case, it's going to take, you know, if you just count this out, it's going to take 4 more bars for this one to actualize, and then from that point, then it would take 6 more bars to get a higher one. So as you can see, these 2 swing points are going to be active for another 10 weeks, right? Unless we go lower, right? Unless we break them. So 10 weeks before you can get another one. That's going to take the MTTFs, and it's going to stretch them out quite a bit. And if I pull the MTTFs over and look at them on a weekly, pop up, and I don't have it handy here, but that's going to put it at like 92-93%. Folks, it is going to reset. It's just a question of when. It's not if it is, it will. And so with that as the backdrop, let's think about where we are and probably where we're going. So we get higher, we're going up, we're testing the highs. I'd written an article and had talked to my members quite a bit about this being a range trade, and we're still in the range trade. And that range trade is not just on the SPX. That range trade is also, in effect, still on the broad composite, the NDX. And so if I pop the composite over and look at it, we're right at the highs. We're testing the highs. We have less volume. We actually went and tested onto them Friday. 42.46.55. We got to 42.50, but we closed underneath it at 42.44. We did 99, almost 100, and we were going into 109. So you're hitting it with a little bit less volume. You went over, back under, closed under it, less volume. That's a failure at the highs so far, right? A failure at the highs suggests that this thing could go sideways or should go sideways to potentially coming back down. And the fact that it had less volume says that it doesn't have to come back up there and test again. So given that, and given the fact that we've had, you know, this extended move up, and now we're up in the top of the range now. Bottom of the range is down here. Midway is back there. You know, what this market should do, and remember, last week it should have failed twice and it didn't. What it should do is try to come back in and it should try to do that immediately if it's going to. So weekly, IXIC, still a range trade. Same thing on the daily. SPX, same thing. If we go to the last broad index that's out there, it's the Russell. Russell's been weaker, not as strong. It's definitely still a range on this one. This one also tried to break a swing point low and couldn't. Hasn't reset either. It's popping back up. It's right at, if we take and do kind of the middle, right, it's kind of right at, there's three of them in here, and it's kind of right at the second going into the third. So there's two clear things to watch tomorrow. One is, can the Russell break up into this higher area? Can the IXIC get over the tops and start to extend away and mimic what is happening in the more narrow NDX, which is already broken out? And this is the only index so far to break out. Now we got a volume problem here on the weekly. We'll have to fix it. It looks like we have it on the daily too. It did have slightly, I think it has slightly more volume. I don't have it in front of me. I can't get it real easy. So if one of you want to check the numbers, you can let me know. I believe it was slightly higher volume. And if it wasn't, it did get over in terms of price and stay over it. So the NDX has broken out of the range. And the question is will the others follow it or not? The Dow Jones is coming back up to test this area. So if I go back to the Russell and look at it, you can see the price point here. It's over it slightly. So it's coming into that third range of the three range breakdown, if you will. You know, you got the top one up here. So about right there, about where it is. It also did a doji. You got another one that's right into here. And then the latter one is down here. So three ranges. It's trying to break into this one. That's what I would be watching tomorrow to see if it can. Because if it does, right, it can leg on up to the next area that it's got resistance at. It's coming into an area that it should fail, but so far it hasn't, although it is doing a doji. And then if I go back and look at the IXIC, you know, that's the other one. So the Russell, the broad composite, those are the ones that are going to give us the test. This one failed on a weekly, failed on a daily, and did it both of them. Lighter volume over the top, back underneath it. After an extended move, this should come back. We'll see it tomorrow. And if this does leg out, folks, I think it makes it fairly clear that this market is going to work higher. Now, if we project this V-shape, right, this kind of V-shape recovery again, even if we come back, right, there's a good possibility it's just going to set up an ABCD structure to go higher. So even if it fails here, comes back, I am certain there's going to be buyers down here at some level. And you know, you can see the levels, you know, they're here, they're pointed out on the charts with the green. Those are the levels you should expect the buyers to try to start showing up again. The higher one, the middle, and the lower one. Any of those is going to create an ABCD structure to try to take it back up and over the highs. That's true here, and it's true of the SPX as well. And if in fact that is what happens, and I think there's a good chance of that, you know, given the behavior we've seen, then what we should see is we should see the laggard, and we saw this before, and we'll pull it up and show you again. We should see the laggard, the Dow Jones, make it back up to those highs and try to get over them. Remember back in May, July, September, the Dow was trying to get up to the highs. As a matter of fact, it was the September number. All the other indexes were over the highs, yet this one was just trying to get back up there. And when it did, that's exactly when it sold off. It got there on the day, to the penny almost, sold off, and everything else sold off with it. Then eventually, of course, things took off, and you know, we're at a totally different state now. But I would think that if in fact those other indexes do break out, what you can expect here, and this would probably be the one to be watching, this one pulls back, comes back up, and just gets to the highs again. And that would be where the market would probably fail and roll over again. I do not think this is going to be a repeat of 13. It's going to be, you know, 2014 is not going to be the same. It's not, it already isn't straight up like we saw. You know, Last year we were straight up off the get-go, and we never came back. We never were negative the entire year in terms of the return, right? And it ended up being 25 to 35% depending on what you were in. Well, this is not that year. We're barely positive on the NASDAQ, and we're not positive on the S&P, and definitely not on the Dow yet. So it's a different year. It's going to be a different story. You got stretched MTTFs. You know, I'm trying to go over this in a big, broad perspective because this is the weekly show. I do think that you're going to see a pullback here fairly soon, and then probably set up an ABCD structure to break out the highs, and then the Dow will climb up to this area. Let's go over and look at the world markets and see what they look like. And I think they're going to be pretty much a repeat of what you're seeing here, but it's worth taking a look at them. So this is the CACs. So volumes tailing off. You're almost at the highs. Let's look at it from the weekly on all of these. So you're doing enough volume coming back up. This is where you came off the top, 5.8. You're coming back with 5.6. So CACs looks like it wants to try to test the top, and it looks just like our market. The FTSE's been weaker, but that was because of mining shares haven't contributed quite as much. But they're starting to kick in now. FTSE's starting to make its run, and volume's coming into it. So FTSE can get higher. I don't see anything to stop that. Let's see what the DAX. DAX has been weaker on a relative basis lately, and it's coming up with no volume comparatively. So if it gets to the top, that one looks like it's going to try to fail at the top. Let's go over to Asia, where the Hang Seng has been putting a move lately. You know, emerging markets have been much weaker than everything else. 82 coming back into 77, so it's hitting it. It's coming into the area with volume. That was a swing point low. So a lot of these Asian markets, you know, being laggards, they're going to come back in and do the retest regens, and they're going to try to retest and regenerate lower again. So that's the Hang Seng. A little bit more. Looks like it probably should trade up tonight. I think it did trade up last night while we were off, so it's already. I don't have the updates here actually. I should have updated them today, but I didn't. So it traded up last night. I'm showing the night. I'm showing Friday's numbers. So it's into this bar already. I tell you what, I'll try to get those numbers before I get off air, before I look at the rest of these. Let's pop over to the sectors and see what the sectors are looking like. And we'll just glance through these on the weeklies. Okay, so IYT still not showing much pep, is it? Comes down twice hard and comes back up with so-so volume. And that's gonna, I don't know, that one doesn't, that one actually doesn't make me think very much of it. Okay, so on the SMHs over the highs, volume's there. And these guys are known to do this, right? They just do straight up moves and straight down moves. It's over the highs and it's got the volume 6.9, 6. Oh, it doesn't. 6.9, 6.5. So it got over the highs, doesn't have the volume. So that probably will do some more testing there tomorrow to see if in fact it can push higher straight up even more. So it's kind of amazing that the runs that we've seen, I get, you know, I look at these and I think to myself, my God, how many times can they do these V-shaped moves, you know, that you see on the daily charts? I mean, I've seen them so many times over the last few years. Okay, so the XLB comes off. The left volume at the top looks like it's going to test it again. Dollar's been weaker. I was looking at the dollar as we were coming on the air here. If I pop over and look at it, you know, the dollar's been weaker, coming back into his swing point low. 6.2 down there. It's coming in with about 4.8. So the dollar's going to do some more testing at the lows, and You know, the weakness in the dollar does help gold. It helps anything inflationary, right? I mean, that's the whole idea, trying a weak currency. So, you know, gold's been going the other direction, and I was looking at it, trying to measure it up. We've looked at it before. Gold looks like it wants to test up into the bottom of this high at least. 38 million there. It's coming back with 46, so it's pressing pretty well. The bar got into it, had 76. That low was 125, but we're already into it. So yeah, gold. I don't see what's going to stop gold from trying to get up to the swing point high before it's over with. Let's see what the silver market, if it's strengthening as much now. And yeah, not bad. Over the highs. And that bar it's coming into is 2048, 49. Yeah, so this one will be interesting tomorrow. Will it be able to get up into this bar deeper? Because it's actually playing with two wide price spread, high volume bars here. And there's a little zone underneath this resistance zone that shows. And that's really going to be tough to get over. So we may see some sort of a pullback finally here in these metal markets, which would be what? Maybe a little strength into the dollar. Let's look at the bonds on the weekly, because the bonds are the ones I keep looking at to understand whether or not we're going to see some sort of push back higher, because they left volume, they came back, they did a doji. Excuse me. Yeah, it's hard to believe the bonds are going to go anywhere anytime soon. And the reason I say that is this area here, right off of this bar, these bars, that's going to be tough to get over. It's going to take it a few times to get over it. So I would think it just backfills a little bit, then comes at it again. So bonds look like they're going to go sideways, which is what the market needs to try to go higher. So I don't see bonds telling us, you know, a flight to safety fear trade. We were seeing that for a while on the first part of this run up. We're not seeing it now. And given the volumes over here, it looks to me like this is going to take a while. Now, you know, it could all change if it gets over it. And what I mean by that is if it really does get over this area, right, then you could get your ABCD structure. And if you start doing this, and bonds go up and the rates start to drop, you know, and you start pushing all the way back up into here in a fast fashion, you know, that's going to be hard on equity markets to stomach, because that's a fear trade. You know, you get that, that's fear, and that's, you know, that's going to be hard on equities to stomach. If bonds just kind of drift and slowly work their way up there, it's a different story. But right now, it looks to me like that is what they're going to do, and that's not going to hurt the equities. Going back over to the sectors. And I was trying to get the quotes up here. Let me see if I can get these quotes up while I'm talking. So we'll see if they pop up or not. Alright, so the financial sector, I don't know if that's really giving us much clues. Came down with volumes, coming back up with nothing. 2167, 2166. It's kind of at the key area. You know, if it gets over this, it gets to the highs. And I think that we're going to see that pretty much on all these, right? All right, let's try to take some of your questions. And the first one that was up here was LinkedIn, so let's pop over to it. LinkedIn got hit pretty hard on earnings, and the question is do I wait until Dave wants to short it? He wants to know, does he wait until it bounces back to the 200 or pull the trigger here? The weekly and daily look weak, but the daily looks oversold a tad and ready for a bounce. So here's the weekly. You know, the volume first of all, even if you're going to take the trade, you have to figure out where your target is, and the target to me would clearly be this little overlap down here. So that's about a 140 number, and that looks to be where it's going to try to trade back to. What is that top? Excuse me, 150. It looks like it was 149. I was looking at 150. So somewhere between about 149, 152 is kind of the target. It's currently at 186, so another 35 bucks or so. So that would be 35 on the downside. Now, what's your risk on the upside? Well, I think the spot that should have difficulty is right there, and so that price point is the top here is 202, the bottom there is 201. So again, you're trading at 186. There's about 15 to the upside, about, what do we say, 35 to the downside. So right here, it would make sense. Now, in terms of will it just shoot on down there, right? Will it just come straight on down here or not? Typically, when you get breaks on multiple swing points, right, that's when you can get a faster move to the downside, right? So here's your swing point low. It was broken on this time frame, so you broke over it here or under it. So you're underneath it on this time frame, and you're definitely underneath it on the daily time frame. As a matter of fact, I think you're underneath two of them. Now that was the weekly, so that would be a weekly short. So a time frame there being a weekly. Let's put LinkedIn up here, and if we look at it on this one, so here you had two swing points break on the way down. And then this one, this break you see here is that swing point we just looked at on the weekly. So again, what usually happens is 2 to 3 bars, fast move, right, on the highest time frame. On this time frame, you've already got the 2 to 3 bars, right? Bar 1, 2, and 3, they're all there. So the 2 to 3 bars has already happened on this one. So yes, I think it could get a little bounce. The 2 to 3 bars on the weekly hasn't happened, right? That still has to happen yet, right? It hasn't happened here. And so we're on bar 1, you got 2 to 3, you could actually move on down here. That doesn't mean that you can't bounce inside this and then still finish down by the end of the week. So in terms of the timing, I'd probably try to catch a little bounce if it'd give it to me. I don't think you're going to get very high though. I would think if I'm going to target this, I'd target 2 places on the bounce. I'd target right there, and then I'd target into the bottom of this swing point low and potentially into the bottom of that one. But I think these two are probably your best bet. So I would start right here, right? That's where I'd try to put my shorts on. In particular this one, I think that's going to be your best bet. So that's the way I would look at it and try to trade it. Okay? Alright, so let me see if I got, let's see if those numbers came across so I can see them here. So bear with me a second. Let me go back to the world markets and let's see what those guys look like. So I wanted to go, let me go back to the CACs. Yeah, so now we've got last night's trades on them. And that's interesting. So it pushes into the highs, 43.51, gets over it. This is just like the NASDAQ, test failure into the highs. This thing should pull back tonight. All right, let's look at all of them real quick while we got a chance. So let's look at the FTSE. Yes, and that one pushed higher, and it looked to me like it was going to. That looks right. Let's look at the DAX, and it's going up on no volume, but it can push to another, few points higher. DAX has nothing, right? That's a doji after an extended move. That's a 2-bar reversal, it looks like. Yeah, it's a 2-bar reversal after an extended move. Again, that should trade sideways to down. That's Europe. Let's go over to Hong Kong now. So I know they traded up last night, and they did, and they're into the swing points. So the retest regen zone, they're back into it now. And the first one's there. And let's see what kind of volume we got on these. 16.5 coming up with 10. That looks like that's going to fail and come back. So I don't see this market in Asia or in Europe working that much higher. Now this one can, this one can definitely get a little bit higher. It just tested into it. Let me see what the others look like. So Taiwan, for example. Let's see what Taiwan looks like. And that one can't go anywhere. That looks like it's failing already. Japan. I know Japan has been lagging everyone. They got a little bounce. So that's a little test reversal. Should get a bounce tonight. And let me go look at where is it? There it is, Korea. And that one is right at resistance. So this is, yeah, this is actually looks like this one can go higher. This looks like a little ABCD up with some decent volume compared to the, the volume flows are correct on this one. Looks like it can test higher. So Asia, not too bad. Europe looks like it's going to fail tonight. So I would think that by tomorrow, when we open up, we'll be struggling a little bit. And we'll be struggling because we actually have, a situation here where we've been off a day. Markets went up a little bit. We'd already gone up in front of them on Friday, right? They go up, they compensate last night. Asia maybe pushes a little bit higher tonight. Europe probably starts to come back, which means we'll probably open up soft tomorrow. Of course, opening up soft is what this market loves. They love to buy the down moves, I guess. So we'll see how it trades. The two things I'd watch tomorrow, watch the IXIC, watch the Russell. If those guys can't break higher, this market finally is going to get a pullback, and then we'll probably see some sort of ABCD structure attempt to set up to the upside. That's it for the weekly view. I appreciate you joining me. Have yourself a great night. Tell a friend, tell two. I'm L.A. Little, and this is and was your weekly TA wrap. Have a great night, folks. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you next time. Good night.